When I think of perfect games, one game will always be on that list, and that game is Ultrakill. You thought I was gonna do the title drop thing, didn't you? Ultrakill is one of my highest hours played games, which is for good reason. It's the gold standard for what every FPS single player game should be, and I'm tired of pretending it's not. It's fun, it's skill based, it's challenging, it's flashy, it's rewarding, it's beyond peak. But why should you give a dang about this game, and if you haven't already, play this masterpiece? Well, I intend to go over everything I love about this game, but I highly recommend playing this game before watching this. Spoilers will be mentioned lightly, but mostly skipped over. But with that out of the way, let's get into the fire. Actually, I lied. Before we start, could you please subscribe? I'm trying to reach 3K subs, and every sub counts, so it means a lot if you decide to. It's free after all. Okay, now we can get into the video. Now, a huge part of what makes Ultrakill is that it lets you do everything that is cool. Now, what's cool, you might ask? Let's look it up. Damn it. Every weapon is powerful in its own way, which means there's no entirely bad weapons. This doesn't mean each weapon doesn't have its advantages, however, as some are significantly better at dealing with certain enemies. The real strength of the weapons come from combining their attacks. For example, you have a railgun, you hit an enemy, it does some damage. However, you can make this hit multiple times because of a completely different gun. You know, stupid stuff like that. The combat can be so in-depth while also being, on the surface, really fun. It's more about being a glass cannon that can heal itself every 2 microseconds, encouraging a playstyle that is both more fun and quick-paced, while also needing less of a perfect aim, as shown by me sucking at long range. That's not to say this game is easy in any regards. Frankly, if you're new, you're gonna struggle in a few levels, and that's okay. At some point, the whole thing just clicks and you become significantly better than when you started. For me personally, I clicked 2 times. Once when I was P-ranking the whole game, and the second time was when I was trying to do a P-rank of that level of violent. You're gonna start doing all the combat and combos that a speedrunner does. A good reason for this is that many of the enemies later in the game are designed to be challenging, as well as having you slowly open up your playstyle. A very good example of this is the Knuckle Blaster. You get this in the Limbo layer after killing Iron Man, apparently.
Nigga, was that Iron Man?
When you get this weapon, you're probably not going to use it, and at best you're going to use it for 1 or 2 levels. But then you're going to switch back to the blue arm, because why would you have a short range attack when you could just parry instead? I personally never used it until the introduction of layer 7 with the Gutterman, an enemy with a shield that the Knuckle Blaster can break. You can break their shield with the Knuckle Blaster and get full health off of it. This one enemy pushed me to use this weapon I would have never used before, and my playstyle and skill has gone up dramatically. This is what makes it so rewarding to learn every weapon, and you're gonna have a perfect way out of every situation. This and the style system as a whole encourages variation in your playstyle. There's so much tech you can do that you will have an answer to every problem you face, and you will become an unstoppable force made of pure skill. That was a long section, so let's move on to a hopefully shorter one. Now, for a lot of games, the story is either a big selling point or not one at all, but Ultrakill manages to have a pretty intriguing one despite not forcing it on you. You could go through the whole game and not know what any of the story is. That is, if you have 4 brain cells, like some of my friends. Ultrakill strikes the perfect balance of making you have the full option to look deeper into the world, while opting not to doesn't sour the experience. If you get into it, you will really get into it. It's the perfect game for autistic nerds to be obsessed with, like me. And it just feels rewarding to know why everything is the way it is. It all just makes sense. Now, I don't want to actually get into the story due to, spoilers. But just to let you know, it is pretty thought-provoking with its themes and lore versus other similar games. Now, let's go on to what many would say is the most important part. As mentioned in the combat part, the enemies are a huge reason why this game is so good. Every enemy has its purpose, and a lot of them challenge your playstyle heavily. Some enemies are immune to explosions, so shotgun punching won't work so well on them, while others can be easily handled by a coin or 2. And because some bosses become normal enemies later on, it just has so much to offer in variety. This combined pushes you even more to have more of a diverse arsenal. Even with all this, the game is still not going to be easy. Every enemy feels strong enough. Hell, even the first enemy of the game, depending on the difficulty setting of course, could easily kill you in seconds. There is always a counterplay however, which is usually just shooting the damn guy. Each encounter generally gets more complex as the levels go on, not including enemy introductions of course. And each arena utilizes each enemy to the fullest, making some pretty deadly combos in some levels. And speaking of arenas, each level fits the theme of each layer pretty damn well, and each layer has fantastic introductions. The layers set themselves apart from each other just by how different they look. I mean, looking at Limbo compared to Lust, it's literally night and day. Especially with the upcoming revamps to early layers, as well as the last 2 layers still on its way, there's just so much that makes each layer have such glory to them. Now sadly I don't want to talk about each layer because I think it's best when done blind, because the introductions are very much worth it on a blind playthrough. So I will just move on to the last section. Ultrakill has such a great soundtrack, and like much of the layers, the music keeps getting better the further you are into the game. That's not to say the earlier layers' music is bad. In fact, I quite like some of them, except for this one. But compared to the majesty of Layer 7's music, the early layers just don't compare as well. This is just another case of the game getting better the more hours you put in. Almost every level gets its own unique music, so you'll always get a fresh feeling with each level. Not to mention, there is a calm and combat version to each track. Along with some levels having multiple tracks in them, it's just really good if you're into game music. Even the secret levels are nothing to scoff at. I mean, come on, my favorite song in the whole game comes from one. And no, it's not the song that plays in the level correctly known as 4-S. The music is what got me interested in the game in the first place. So if you're still somehow on the fence, you can listen to a few tracks and you'll likely get converted. But with that said, I think it's time we wrap up this video already. Well, those were the points I wanted to talk about. I hope I was able to convey why this game is so important. So much has been inspired by this game alone, including myself. It's hard to believe this came from a relatively small group of developers, working in order to make the best game they can, and it really has sparked so much change in the FPS genre. I really just want to try and express what makes this game so good. And hey, if this does well enough, I can make some other Ultrakill videos, which you can put some ideas for that in the comments. But with that said, I hope you will be able to see that the perfect FPS game is in fact Did you subscribe yet?